called her the crazy one, the bitch. Michael's psycho ex who threw a Dundie through a TV and sang to a baby in a room full of people who wanted to leave. That's the Jan Levinson most people remember. And it's the exact read the actress herself keeps begging fans to drop. Because if you actually watch closely, you didn't see a crazy woman. You watched a competent one get taken apart, one laugh track at a time. And that's the part almost nobody sits with. We talk about Jan like she was always a punchline. She wasn't. The woman we meet in the pilot is the single most competent adult in the entire Dunder Mifflin universe. And the show spends 9 seasons quietly dismantling her while telling us to laugh at the wreckage. As someone who has rewatched this series more times than is defensible, I want to walk you through what actually happens to Jan Levinson in order. Because when you lay it out end to end, you don't see a villain, you see a demolition. Start with who she was before any of it. Jan is the vice president of Northeast Sales at a paper company, which means she runs an entire region and directly supervises Michael Scott. Sit with that. Her whole job is being the responsible one, standing over the least responsible man in Pennsylvania. And early on, she's genuinely good at it. She's sharp, she's controlled. She closes the deal in the client that Michael nearly torches. She drives 2.5 hours to clean up messes that aren't hers. There's a running gag where she asks Michael if she's on speakerphone in front of the office, and he lies, because on some level everyone knows she's the only one enforcing any standards at all. She is, by every measure the show gives us, the adult in the room. Here's the detail most people never clock. Jan is based on a character from the original British Office named Jennifer Taylor Clark, and Jennifer stayed a competent professional the entire run. No breakdown, no candles, no unraveling. She was calm, capable, and completely fine, and in the UK version, she's actually part of getting the boss fired at the end, which means Jan's collapse was never inevitable. It wasn't baked into the role. The American writers looked at a functional businesswoman and made a deliberate choice to take her apart. Everything that happens to Jan after this point is something the show chose to do to her, and I want to be fair to her, because the show occasionally is. There's a moment in the episode Money where Michael, drowning in debt, tries to literally run away from his life, and Jan is the one who stops him. She tells him she's come to see him as someone worth standing by. It's quiet, it's warm, it's human, and it's proof that Jan is not a cartoon. She's capable of real tenderness. The writers knew that. They showed it to us on purpose, which makes what they do to her afterward feel less like a character flaw and more like a choice to punish a real person. So let's talk about the first domino, because everyone remembers it wrong. Jan tells people she was fired over her breast implants. The show frames that as delusion, as her being unstable and paranoid. But rewatch the deposition. She sues Dunder Mifflin for $4 million in wrongful termination, and her actual claim is sexism and discrimination in the workplace. That scene is written as pure comedy. Michael's "That's what she said," the lawyer's deadpan, the private diary read out loud. We are laughing so hard at Michael that we never stop to ask the obvious question. What if she's right? The show never once proves she isn't. It just makes sure you're too busy laughing to consider it. And the betrayal in that episode cuts both ways, which almost nobody acknowledges. Jan uses Michael's own diary against the company, yes, but Michael then discovers she'd given him a brutal performance review while they were sleeping together. And in response, he torpedoes her entire case by refusing to back her up under oath. Two people who supposedly loved each other, destroying each other in a conference room, and the episode is remembered as a comedy classic. Meanwhile, the CEO, David Wallace, sits there calmly listing the reasons she had to go. And here's what's easy to miss. Her decline didn't start with the firing. Watch the timeline. The paranoia, the instability, the sanity slippage all begin back in season 3, and they go into freefall the moment Wallace lets her go. The firing didn't reveal that she was broken. The firing is what broke her. Then comes the relationship, and this is where the demolition really accelerates. After she's fired, Jan moves into Michael's condo with no job, no income, and no ladder left to climb. They trade their cars in for a shared Porsche. She burns through his savings and his credit while he's working 2 jobs to keep them afloat. And the show frames that as her being reckless and him being the victim. But look closer. And what does the series give this woman who spent her whole life being the competent one? A scented candle business called Serenity by Jan that reportedly earns exactly $0 a year. Think about the cruelty of that image. A former regional vice president reduced to selling candles out of a house, candles that a dinner guest openly says smell terrible. We're supposed to laugh at how pathetic it is, but that's a person who lost the one place where she was ever allowed to be good at something, grabbing for any scrap of control she has left. Because that's what her so-called craziness actually is, when you stop laughing long enough to look. The smoking and stressful moments, the self-destructive choices, the need to dominate every room she walks into. People point to the moment she pressures Michael into getting multiple vasectomies while pretending she's undecided about kids, and they call it monstrous. And on the surface, sure, but zoom out. This is a woman who had exactly one thing: her competence, her authority, her career, and watched all of it get stripped away. Control is what people reach for when everything solid in their life has been taken from them. She isn't grasping for power because she's a villain. She's grasping for it because it is the only thing she ever had, and the show made a point of taking it. Which brings us to the scene everyone quotes, the dinner party. It's routinely called one of the funniest half hours of television ever made, and I understand why, and that is exactly the problem. Watch it again, but this time don't laugh. A woman screams at her partner, plays a song written by her teenage former assistant specifically to torment him, throws a heavy award through a plasma television, and nearly gets arrested on a property destruction charge, all while a camera crew and a table of dinner guests sit there and witness it. That is not a comedy sketch. That is a public, nervous breakdown, filmed like a comedy sketch. And every single one of us watched it as entertainment, because the show told us to. And here is the detail that should make it click. Look at who's in that room. Jim, Pam, Andy, Angela, all watching Jan come apart, all treating it as an awkward night out to gossip about later. Now think about where you were sitting. You were on the couch, doing the exact same thing they were doing, laughing at the woman losing her grip, waiting for the next joke. The show built the audience right into the scene. We weren't watching Jan's breakdown from the outside. We were cast as the people in the room, choosing to ignore it. Then there's the baby, and it's the same trick one more time. Jan has a daughter, Astrid, through a sperm donor, and the baby shower episode turns the whole thing into a bit. She sings a wildly inappropriate old song to a newborn for 20 straight minutes, while the office stares. She breastfeeds in the middle of the workplace, while everyone tries to keep working around her. Real-world side note that tells you everything about how this character was written. That scene exists because the actress once breastfed her own daughter at a brunch and made the show's creators uncomfortable. So they handed the discomfort to Jan. And the internet's response, for 15 years, has been to treat her life as a mystery game. Who's the father? Was it Hunter? The teenage assistant? Was it Kevin? Fans built entire theories. The real answer, buried in a deleted script, is that she paid top dollar for a celebrity donor. We turned a lonely woman raising a child alone into a puzzle to solve, and never once asked why she was so alone in the first place. So let me answer that, because the show buries it under jokes. Jan's family doesn't speak to her. On her own business website, there's a note that she had an unhappy childhood and ran away from home. She says her relatives won't talk to her anymore. In her words, on the advice of counsel. In another episode, she casually mentions that when everything fell apart, her friends had all been expecting it. This is a person with no family, no job, no partner, and no soft place to land. And the series treats her total isolation as a throwaway line dropped between two better jokes. Nobody in the show ever stops and says, "This woman has lost everything." It just keeps moving to the next gag. And now the part I genuinely can't get past, the thing we all ignored completely. Think about how The Office ends. Michael gets Holly and a happy life in Colorado. Dwight gets Angela and the manager's job he spent a decade chasing. Andy finds peace. Ryan and Kelly ride off together. Even Toby, the show's designated sad sack, gets an ending. Every single person who ever suffered on this series is handed a soft landing in that finale. Some grace, some closure. Everyone except one person. Jan gets nothing. After the breakup, she resurfaces as a hospital administrator, a single mother, a woman who recorded an entire album of covers nobody asked for, still performing competence at a life that keeps shrinking. When she finally returns as a real client in the last season, running the local phone book company, the show's parting gift to her is to make her the creep. She eyes a young Dunder Mifflin employee, gets shipped off with him on a trip abroad, and the writers frame a lonely middle-aged woman's last scene as a punchline about her being predatory, the exact same joke they'd already told about her teenage assistant years earlier. Her actual last appearance is a phone call where she loses a business deal out of pure spite. She isn't invited to the finale. She isn't even mentioned in the documentary the entire show is supposedly built around. The one character the writers flatly refuse to redeem, the only major person denied a single warm ending, is the competent woman they spent 9 years turning into a joke. Everyone else got forgiven. Jan got written out. So was she the villain or the victim? Honestly, neither. And that's the whole point. Jan Levinson is what happens when a capable, ambitious woman is discarded by a system, infantilized by a relationship, and then handed to an audience as comic relief. The actress spent years telling fans they weren't watching closely enough, and she was right. Every cruel outburst, every terrible candle, every uncomfortable song, it was never really the joke. It was a person coming apart in plain sight, while all of us, and everyone in the room with her, decided it was funnier not to look. If this changed how you see her, subscribe. There's a lot more the show hoped you'd never notice.